Hello everyone, this is a video on Android application development. In this case, we are developing an application which totally depends on the maps and navigation part, saving the addresses. Before that, I will be showing you downloading the JDK and setting up the Eclipse and setting up the Android SDK, Android development tools, and creating an AppEngine. AppEngine is nothing but a platform that offers to build and run applications. We'll get into that later, and also the demo on the application. So before starting an Android application, if you have to start an Android application, we're going to start with a Java JDK. To do so, we will be opening the Google and just type in Java JDK. So that will be the first link from the oracle.com where you can see Java, and the NetBeans. You can simply go hit the Java and then it will pop up all the available kind of downloads you can do depending on the platforms we use, OS. And you can use, if you're on Windows, you can use the Windows 86 or 64. If you're on Mac, you can use the x64 OS X. So go ahead and download the JDK depending on your processor, and once you are done with that, you have to set up the JDK path in the environment variables. It's going to take some time, so I will just give you a link to the page where you can follow steps to install the setting up the path to the JDK. Just go to Google and type in mybringback.com. So you can have the first link here. Go to the courses, go to the Java, since we are developing Android, even though to set up the Java path variables, go to Java, click on it, and the first one you can see setting up the Java on computer. So you can pick in Java program, just hit on it, read more. You can just have the steps here. It's everything: searching the Java, downloading, and opening the environment variables, setting up the path variables, everything. So once you are done with that, the next part you're gonna do is installing the Eclipse. So to do that, go to Google again and just type in Eclipse download. In this case, I'm downloading Luna, which is a version of the Eclipse which I'm already using. So simply you can go to Eclipse Luna. You can see the downloads. Most cases run instead of running a exe file, go for finding a zip file. So here I'm checking for Luna packages, and this is the Eclipse IDE for Java developers. I'm clicking on it. Then to your right you can see the Windows 64-bit downloads. Since my computer is Windows 64, I'm downloading the Windows 64. So in the next screen you can see here the eclipse.zip. So instead of exe, I'm searching for zip and I'm downloading it. Once I hit it, it's gonna download me. I already downloaded one in my C drive. I can show you. Go to C drive. I downloaded it as Eclipse Luna. This is the one. So once you downloaded Eclipse, you can simply go to the downloaded location and just see the icon here which is showing Eclipse. You can just double click. It's gonna open up the Eclipse Luna. So once it starts loading, it's gonna pop up a launcher which is showing here Workspace launcher. Workspace is nothing but that organize the Java classes and resources we use. So depending on your flexibility, just go ahead and make a folder for the workspace in whatever drive you want. Here I made a folder in G drive. I made a like AddMap server and the server folder. So just go ahead and click OK. It's gonna take a minute to load. After you download the Eclipse and open it up, and once you hit on the workspace OK, and it will open up the Eclipse. So once it's open up the Eclipse, you can just there will be a screen popping up where you can import the new projects. Okay, this is the Eclipse. This is the workspace. How it looks for the Eclipse ID, and ignore the whatever here. I'll just gonna explain you that later. And once we install the Eclipse, we'll have to install the ADT plugin for Eclipse, which is Android development tool for the Eclipse. So to do so, we go to Google again, and we just type it ADT plugin for Eclipse. So most cases it will be the first link, which will be from the developer android.com. So you can just hit on it, and if you go scroll down, there is a link right here. You just select the link and copy it, and just come back to Eclipse, and in the tab under tab at help, if you click on help, you can see install new software. This is so once you hit on it, you can have this window right here. So whatever we have copied from here, just paste it here. So I did not copy it actually, so I already had added it. So if you can see, this is this is the ADT plugin. I named it as ADT Android. It's gonna ask for the link and name, whatever you have to, you can give it. So once you give the link here and just add, it's gonna show the available packages that we can install. In here it shows the developer packages, and if I click on it, it shows all items are installed. Since I installed everything, so I'm just gonna close it. And the next thing is installing the Android SDK. Android SDK is very important because whatever we are developing, we need some tools and build tools and whatever repository files, so everything will be in the SDK tools. So to work with them, we have to install the SDK. So to do so, go to Google again and just type in Android SDK download. So once you do that, you can see download Android SDK developer.android.com. Just click on it, and you can see the Android Studio for Windows. So go ahead, click on this. Sorry, just come back. And you can see on the left hand side installing the SDK. We have two options here: Android SDK and standalone SDK tools. Android SDK tools, standalone tools which we can use with the IDE like Eclipse, but Android Studio itself is an IDE developed by Google. So we are not using Android Studio here, so we are using the standalone SDK tools. So we just go ahead, click on it, and you can see somewhere on. Yeah, just go ahead and search for the tools. Yeah, I got. So these are the tools which we'll be developing for Windows. You can download it from here, exe file, which is recommended, or you can also download the SDK zip file for the Mac and the Linux. So I downloaded the installer R24X. It's on my downloads. R24 somewhere. I think I moved it to some other place. Yeah, here, right here, installer 2441, which is Android SDK tool. I already installed the tool. So once you install the Android SDK, it's a regular installation. It's gonna ask for the path where we want to download it. So I install it in others, and I named it Android SDK. Once you go to the Android SDK, you can see the AVD and SDK manager. AVD is nothing but Android Video Virtual Device Manager, which we use to create emulators, kind of virtual devices. And the SDK is a software development kit manager. You can double click here to open it, or you can also go to here on window. You can see the Android virtual device manager and SDK manager. But in order to see them here, we used to add the SDK file in our preferences. That will be here on the Windows in the preferences. If you go to the Android, we are developing Android. You can see here the installation which I made in G Android SDK. I gave the path here. So once I gave it and click on apply and say OK, I can see the options here, the two options, Android SDK manager and virtual manager. So I open the Android SDK manager. It's gonna take a little bit of time, yeah. So you can see it, everything is showing me install. So you don't have to install everything. You can install only the platform you are developing. Like you can see Android 4.2.2, 4.1.2, and if you're working with the Google Play services, Google Maps or everything, you can find them on the extras. So I installed almost everything. It's gonna take a while, like long time, so go ahead and install whatever you want, and once you're done you can close the window. So I install the packages, and so we are done with the Android SDK. To setting up an emulator, like we are done with SDK manager, we will be seeing the virtual device manager. Virtual device manager is nothing but a virtual device in our system. Instead of connecting a device to the computer, we can just create a device with our configuration and just run the app in it and just check if everything is working good. Here I created two virtual devices where you can see the first one is, I just named it AddMapV1. The target is 4.1.2 and the API is 16. If you just go ahead and edit, you can see the configurations. Let me create a new one here. If you go ahead and click on create, you can just give a name, like I'm just giving test one. The device can be anything you want, so I'm selecting the basic Galaxy Nexus, and target is itself selected API level 15. You can also select by yourself, but I'm just leaving it as this. CPU is a ARMY BIV878. I don't need the hardware keyboard present. Hardware keyboard is nothing but a, instead of touch, it's gonna show us the keyboard which will be having home button, back button, forward and everything. I'm just taking it off, and skin can be, it's up to you to select. Instead if you select no skin, it helps it to run faster. And the memory, coming to the Windows, more than, there is an error here, you can see more than greater than 768 MB of RAM. If you give in Windows, the emulator may fail. So I will give the threshold of 768, yeah, and I'm just leaving the internal storage of the device as 200 MB. And SD card, I don't need a SD card. I'm installing a smallest app, so I'm just leaving it. Use host GPU is nothing but it will enhance the graphics in the app, in the emulator basically. I'm not gonna use it, so just click on OK. So we created the Android emulator. If I hit on start, it's gonna start. And scale to display is, we can change the display size and DPI. I'm just putting it 4.5 and hit on launch. So it opened me a launcher. I'm just closing this window. So launcher is here. This is the launcher. It's gonna take like 3 to 5 minutes for the basic emulator. The only problem with the emulator is, depending on the configuration we give, the emulator gonna take long time to load. if the API is above 16 and the target is like 4.2.2, which is the latest version, the emulator take like 20 to 30 minutes to load, depending on, even it depends on the system configuration. So I'm just leaving the emulator like that. So we just go ahead, once the emulator is loaded, I'll show how it looks like. And importing the Android project, you can create an Android project, go to file and new and Android application project, or go to others, and you can just check this from Android application project. But what I do here is I already had my project set up. I don't want to mess it up. What I do is I just go to the file. If you are already having a project folder, you can just import it. Import is the same thing, you can use it from the file also. So you can just go to existing Android code into workspace. You can just give browse for the file. Here I have my project in G. If I go for prop and G drive, here is Addmap server. You can see the Addmap servers here, and I saved my Android application inside the workspace which I created before. That's the Addmap, and this is the project. So I just click on the folder containing the files and I just click on OK. Everything gonna load here, but I'm not doing this because I already set up everything. So here you can see the Google Play services. Google Play services are useful when using the support libraries. Also, when you want to host the application online, you will be needing the Google Play services in order to support your application to be online. That's not a big deal, it's just a library file just to use it with the application. And ignore the AddMap server folders here, I'll be explaining them just a bit later. Let me see, not yet loaded. Okay, so this is how we import the Android project. And getting into the project, source is folder where we create our packages and the source files, Java files, which we want to run. The first one, com.org.icube and Addmap, is a package which I created. Just you can create it by right clicking, new package, and the package name and the source folder. So in this package I'm having main map activity. If I open it up, you can see the main map activity. The main map activity is Java file, the main map. Once the application loads, it's gonna show up the main map activity, and whatever I call in here is I'm calling different kinds of APIs which I imported here, like address, geocoder for getting the latitude, longitude, fragment, and autocomplete text tree is nothing but autocompletion of search bar. Say for example a search bar, when you type something it automatically suggests you. And maps, some other stuff which I need in order to open up the first page of the application. Update location activity. Update location activity is, since my app is having an update location problem in the sense which it needs to be updated, so I created an update location activity. Here the location will be updated depending on the position of the device in which the app is being used. And like, this is the AppEngine file where we have the Java file of AppEngine which connects with the app and the server, some other files which we created, and basically the important thing is manifest file. Manifest file will be having the details of the application which is going to be, which will use the internet, which will use some kind of giving the permission to the app. Also we declared here the SDK versions, the minimum we need. If we go for SDK version of 8 and we try to run the application, and the application gonna give an error telling that minimum SDK required is 12, so the target is 19. since it's the most latest. So whenever an Android application starts, it will go to the manifest file to look for the launcher. Launcher is nothing but, here I am calling a update location activity. So once the application opens up, it will call the update location activity, which will gives the main page the location. In my case, when I show you demo on the device, you will understand everything. And here we are giving an Android value API key. I'll explain the API key later. This is the key which we give, and this is the value. And then that's all for the manifest file. Going on to the library files, we have the support file. In the bin file, we will be having a APK. APK is whenever you use the Eclipse or any IDE and you run it on a device, APK is generated in the bin file. You can use it to install in the devices also. And the resources file is important. We'll be having drawable HDPI, LDPI, MDPI, lower, medium, and high definition X and hexx HDPI. It is like we create the images or icon, say for example icon for the Android application. So we create different types of images depending on the device they are using. It's gonna use the folder and it's gonna take out the image and it's gonna use it. So if it's on a smaller device on a mobile, it's gonna use like lower DPI image, so it just displays low DPI image. If it take for example a high definition pad or a PDA, it's gonna use like high definition images from the available images. The layout will be having the XML documents. Layout is XML documents, nothing but which we use for designing purpose. So here we have some layout documents which we created, values, and everything will be having the styles and etc. I created some private libraries, play services, jar files, which we will be using for the application. And for the application, if you go to the properties of the application, I mean project, if you go on Android, there should be a library. If you are using the Google Play library, and I just imported from here, add and give the library. You can just give it here, and you can select the project build target from the available downloaded SDK versions. I have shown you as updating the SDK. Whatever targets you want, you can just download it. Going to the Java build path. Build path will be having the projects, libraries. I mean, in this case, I imported the play services, and that's all for the properties. We don't have to edit any of these here. Our emulator which we created just now is up for usage. So this is the emulator which almost looks like a device. You can just go to the apps. So once you create an application, you can just go to the project. You can just run as Android application. So if the API which we created for the application, if it matches with the API which we created for the emulator, it will, depending on our specifications, it's gonna ask for whether to run in this emulator or different emulators or the devices if we connect it. So it's gonna run it here, it's gonna open up here, and it will show up the application. In my case, the API is higher, so this emulator is not gonna support it. So what I'm just doing is I'll show the demo later on the device which I connected to my computer. So I'm just closing this down now. So here we saw all the pages we created, the Java files we created, and you can see, focusing on the application, I have created some fields like street 1, city, postal codes, etc., which will be updated through the app. And everything I'm using IDs are created in the activity map XML. For the buttons, for the map and the layout, linear or anything, we create the IDs, and as I said, XML is the place where we design the app. You can see it here. I created a hash map for the application because I might need it's in here. So you can see the hash map I created here. This is the location, this is a geocoder. We getting the addresses. If the address is not one, I just made a note of it, and autocomplete view for the search bar which my application is having on top. Latitude and longitude which we get from the geocoder API. If I go to the update location activity, we have the hash map here. I created a hash map of all the fields which I need to be stored every time. So I created the latitude, longitude, which will be automatically taken from the geocoder API, and street, pin code, district, country, state, etc. Right here I have made two list. I mean, in this case it's a spinner, which is a drop-down list for the country. So I just made a spinner for the country. Instead of defaultly selecting, I just made a spinner, and I'm just using two different countries here. One is India and United. If nothing is selected, I'm just asking it to save it as India. So once everything is good, we are using the update and we fill all the fields, and once we hit on the update, it's gonna open up. It's gonna just say location updated successfully. And so this is basically the under address map application files and everything. So what we are using here is AppEngine. AppEngine is useful when we need to store the data in the cloud. AppEngine is a platform which offers you to build and run applications which are based on the Google infrastructure. App engines are easy, and we can also check for the traffic, who are using, how many requests are made for the application, and also defaultly they are providing some data storage which we need for the database. We don't need to worry about the servers since the servers are set it up on the cloud, so everything is cloud. In order to do so, we need the app engine in the Eclipse. So fortunately, we have a plugin for the Eclipse AppEngine plugin, and what we are using here is a Java because it offers different programming languages, the AppEngine environment, but we are using the Java environment. We can also use a Python or PHP or Java, anyone we want. So now we are just using Java environment technologies in order to build our application. So to make AppEngine available in the Eclipse, we have to install the AppEngine plugin for the Eclipse. So to do so, we'll be using the Google again. Just go to Google and click AppEngine plugin for Eclipse. I'm just using Luna. I'm going with Luna. You can see Google plugin for the AppEngine, which is from the Google developers website. So just go hit it, and you can find the help from them, like the screenshots. You can just use it. So in this case, the link is here, right here. Just go ahead and copy it, and once you copy it, come back to the Eclipse, and the same way we install the ADT plugin, we go to we go to help. We will be clicking installing software and giving the link we copy, and it shows the pending here. It's the same for the ADT plugin also. So once it fetches from the internet, it's going to show available packages which we can install. It's going to take a couple of minutes. Yeah, So once everything is done, we just add it. But I'm not going to do that because I already added the Google plugin. Okay, I can show you from here. Google plugin, AppEngine plugin for the Luna. This is the same link which I copied. So if I can show you right here, all items are installed because I install everything. So I'm just closing it. So once you install everything, the first thing you receive is a icon here, right here. This Gplace, you can use it to create app engine projects. Basically here we just do web application projects. So we use this G, right, top on the bar. We can import app engine sample apps, or we can just create new web application project. So before that, let me show you the app engine console. If you go to the Google developer console, like console.developers.google.com, you have to log in with the Google account. For in this case, I made an account for Addmap, AddMap, AddMap@gmail.com. I will be logging it with that email. I already saved my password. Just sign in. It's gonna open up the dashboard. Yes. So right here, this is my application which I created. You can just simply hit like here and create a new project. You will be given the project name like test project. Create. So you can see that his project is created. But I already created my project, which is Addmap server, and when you create the Addmap server, it's gonna ask for a fingerprint key, which is also called a SHA-1 key, which is unique for every computer. The key is used in order to retrieve a Google API key from the Google. Why Google API key is whenever you are communicating with the Google resources, Google needs to know whether the request from the source is unique or not, whether the application which is requesting from some information is unique or not. In order to verify that, we need a Google API key. Before the Google gives us a API key, it's gonna take a fingerprint from our system, saying that it's a unique application which is created from a unique system, so we can respond back. So the SHA-1 key or the Google Debug API key we can generate from the command prompt. I can show you the steps here. You can just go to the Google and type in creating or generating SHA-1 key from the command prompt. Signing certificate fingerprint, you can use any link. So this is how it is created. I'm using different. So this is how we open up the command prompt, and we can see the command they are using here: key to list key store. Key store is nothing but a place where all the certificates, unique IDs are stored in the system. Mostly those are stored in the Java or JRE, and the folder can be bin perhaps. So it's gonna ask for the user profile, which we will include in between of it, like shown here. So you can just give the user profile. Most cases that will be C users and the username which you give, like in my case it's C users Praneeth. So once you go and do that, you can have a screen like this where I already gave the command I shown before and I had just hit enter. So if everything works good, it's gonna create a certificate which is a certificate fingerprint, which SHA-1 is an algorithm which generates a unique ID for my system. This is a unique ID for my system. So once I generate that, I copy it from the command prompt and I'll just go to the console of the Google developers, and I'll just, when I creating a project, it's gonna ask for the SHA-1 key and I give it the my SHA-1 key and click on next. So then the Google gonna reply back with an API key. You can see it here. So this is the API key which we will be using for the application to communicate with the Google resources. So whenever we try to contact the Google, we have to include the API key in our contact process. Say for example, if we are contacting through an HTTP request, we're gonna append the key, API key, along with the parameters. So the Google gonna check for the API key and confirms that this API key is unique, and we can respond back to the application, and they will be respond back with the according to the parameters we created. So getting back to the Eclipse again. So once we create the Google API key, we are good to go. The API key which I shown you here, which I received from the Google, is in the manifest of my application. This is the Google API key which I received from the Google, the same key. So whenever I communicate with the Google, I'll just sending the API key along with the parameters or the query, so they're gonna respond back verifying my API key. So coming to the app engine again, we create the app engine from here. We have application project, which are these are the web application projects which I named them: Addmap server version 1.0 or version 1.1. So version map server and version 1.0 are just the test versions. They have nothing, they just have the test that whether the Google app engine is contacting the server or not. So we did not included any source from our side. So if I just try to run it, this is the Google default Addmap app engine project, just to know, just to confirm whether we are contacting the server or not. So to run it, we just right click, go to Google here, and just deploy to App Engine. So before deploying, let me tell you another thing. So this is the Google console, but App Engine console is different. So let me go to App Engine, google.com. Since I already log in with the Google Gmail, which I use for the Google console, it's already logged in. So if you go to the Addmap server, here I can find the details about the Addmap server. Addmap server is the application ID which we'll be using throughout the app once we start coding for the app engine. So let me go back to Eclipse again. Yes. So when we deploy it, it will perform some deployment steps, and once we deploy, it's going to open up the browser. It's going to take a couple of minutes. You can see the process progress right here. So if everything works good, it will open up the browser. So deployment is successful, and this is the file from the app engine. This is the default code which they gave us. So if I just say AddMap here and try send it, it's gonna go back to server, hit the server and get back a result. See here, we send the name AddMap and the server replies. So what this is, we are contacting the server successfully. I'm closing this. Right here, our app engine project. We are not gonna create any GWT, JRE, whatever here. The things we're gonna create is source and the package. Like I said, right click, create a package. Inside the package, I created some source files, Java file, which basically uses the Addmap and the Google App Engine to connect and save the details. You can see this is a place where the latitude, longitude, and whatever fields I have to save it. I just created a get location details, which you're gonna get the locations. Like you can see request.get. How it can get is the App Engine is having an ID, which is like Addmap AppEngine server or something. Let me see here. AppEngine console. You can see Addmap server. So Addmap server is the name which we're gonna use throughout the development process. So we use the same thing in here in the application somewhere in the, I guess it's update location. So here we are using the AddMap server ID, the name, the same name in the HTML file. HTML file is nothing but just a front-end interface for saving our addresses manually. So I'm using the action as AddMap server. But how the link is gonna open is I have the get location. I should have it in the Android AppEngine files. It should be in the package here. It should be in the AppEngine package of my application. This is a package I created for the AppEngine, and it will be in here AppEngine sync. So here I will be having a link to the HTTP request which I'm making here, which is addmapserver.app.com, and addmapserver is the name of the project I created. So everything I make a request, it goes to the application name here, and it will change the values and insert the values. It gets the values from the application, from the device we are using to update the location, latitude, longitude, street, everything, and it's gonna save it in the place where AddMap server is the application name. So once everything is done and we use a device or the emulator to update the application, we can see the details which are saved from the device which we use in the device. We can use the same details if, say for example, we are using the device to update the address. We gonna enter street, area, pin code, everything, and just hit on it, update, and once it update, everything gonna store in the data store. So this is the data store, and we are saving it everything in the location. You can see the locations here. So these are the locations which are saving from the device or emulator which you are using. The country, district, latitude, longitude are taken from the geo location finder API, pin code, and everything whichever we type it in the application. So once we receive the latitude, longitude, and address, what we're gonna do is retrieve this latitude, retrieve this longitude, and send it to the Google in order to get the navigation along with the API key, because API is important because it will verify the application as a unique thing. Also, for the search bar in the application,